everybody. After doing tarot readings for each sign for the Western and Chinese New Year 2017, it was obvious many people struggled through 2016. The ripple wave effects are still as high as a tsunami in a cove. In retrospect, I was taken aback by how many repeat cards were in the Western spreads. And the Chinese spreads had many counterpart cards that had the same theme. I don't know how many times they said, just in case you missed the message, here's the same card or message. We, as a collective of human beings, connect to global events that are also happening on a smaller scale as local events. The world is being taken over by the 7 deadly sins of pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, anger, and sloth. Instead of asking somebody, what's your sign, I think we need to be asking, what's your sin? Finally, people are waking up from their Rip Van Winkle slumber and don't recognize the world that they grew up in. And people don't remember them, and they don't even care because you have nothing to offer them. Suddenly, the populace of the world has started to wake up. Leadership failures, economic uncertainties, fake news, false flags and terrorism, malevolent professional operatives, runaway agencies within governments has affected us as a collective and has impacted our careers, our finances, our personal well-being, and our lifestyles. However, the hidden truths are quickly surfacing and changes are being made because 2017 is the year of endings and new beginnings, which are desperately needed. In the first week of January, I had a dream that seemed poignant enough to do a general reading for the February eclipses, and their effects that will reach to the next round of eclipses in August. This will give a big picture of changes in the tentacles of the global realities, and maybe some insight into people's personal microcosms for the next 6 months. Allow me to narrate my dream and explain the meanings that I gleaned out of it, and then I'll do a tarot reading for the 6-month period. And as Monty Python says, and now for something completely different. My dream was I stood on the top of a fairly steep hill with a bare path of 3 to 4 feet wide, cut through a dense forest, and at the base of the hill was a shoreline to an expansive body of water. That made me think of one of the Great Lakes in the United States. I went down the hill, kicked around in the water for a while, and then decided to head back up the hill. By the side of the path, I noticed a granite outcrop with gleaming gemstones in it. These crystals were garnet red, colored, pink, green, and clear. I pulled a few out and put them in my pocket. After I showed them to a few people on top of the hill, these fortune seekers wanted to know where I got them, and I gave them the location, but wondered if they would be able to find them. This down and up the hill made me think of the Wheel of Fortune. Something cycled down in your life as you went down the hill, but you refreshed yourself in the water of life, and before returning up the hill, you received a reward. But not all people will receive such a reward, if not worthy. Suddenly I was standing in a room of a house with a bay window that reminded me of an old house that you find around the Great Lakes. Thunder from a raging storm outside was so loud it was shaking the foundation of the house. And I wanted to capture the storm on video, but I couldn't find my camera or microphone. So I tried to turn on my laptop and realized the electricity had gone off. In the dark, I went across the room and looked out the bay window and saw the lake placid and quiescent. And there was no storm outside. I saw landscape lights shining on the plush buildings along the shoreline of the lake and wondered if they had an electric generator. Turbulence in the outside world is happening, but tranquil waters are inside you, which is something you can't capture on video, but can only feel. The lights came back on and I looked over at a wall in the room, and there was this vertical striped wallpaper of an ochre yellow and white. This is the old-fashioned kind that had the repeating thick to thin stripes. Then I saw a macrame wall hanging with a dream catcher on the bottom of it that had tendrils of plasma or blue electricity playing only on the dream catcher. The meaning for this is that the vertical stripes typically mean you're a free thinker or a nonconformist. Rapidly, it appears many people are changing their minds about the traditional orthodox ways of thinking. Hover stripes in the wallpaper reminded me of the sound waves of thunder, and the plasma from lightning on the dream catcher is saying that all the negative turmoil is being caught in the dream catcher and only allowing good thoughts to come through. The blue tendrils of light also mean to me that there's been some kind of darkness of evil. But now you're energized to meet the malevolent darkness head on. Denial is no longer high on anyone's list of avoidances. The apocalypse zombies, which I've always been entertained by that are engaging in an assault on our civilization, are now going to the wayside, are waking up to their surroundings. The choice has always been yours with the free will that has been given to humankind. I wanted to look for my camera and microphone, so I thought I'd look around the house for them. When I looked to the bedroom door, it was closed, and some type of camera with a lead going out the closed door was looking at me. It reminded me of a smaller version of the alien ships with the street lights on them from the old movie, what was it, The War of the Worlds? I thought someone or aliens were watching me. When the camera noticed I was watching it, it turned away from me as if embarrassed that it had gotten caught spying. I was incensed that my privacy was invaded, so I grabbed the camera and some kind of energy surged through my arm and into my shoulder and then dissipated in my body. It wasn't an unpleasant feeling, but it wasn't pleasant either, but it was just an unusual sensation. I felt this energy surge through my arm and shoulder for the next couple days. I'm not really too sure about the meaning of this part of the dream. We know that the masses have been under surveillance by different agencies and organizations since the inception of the technology era. It seems you can't scratch your ass on an empty street corner without somebody watching. But yet I'm a little puzzled by the dream event. Was my dream revealing that there are really alien forces watching humans? It's hard not to believe that we're alone in the vastness of the galaxies and universes out in the far resources of outer space. What this has to do with the price of beans is still a mystery to me. Are some beings watching us wake up to reality? Are helping us wake up from our stupor of denial? Then I woke up in my dream, but I was still dreaming. Pretty cool, huh? I read years ago that the Buddhists think you're dreaming when you're wide awake and awake when sleeping. So go figure. I wouldn't have related this to my intended tarot reading, which was going to be mid-January or February, but the next thing I saw in my dream was my Know Thyself spread that I did for the Chinese New Year readings. And it was sitting on my dining room table. I usually never see which cards are there when dreaming, but only know that the cards are there. It was the same spread, but it had one extra card by the self or self-awareness card on the top right. Therefore, I will have an extra card, as requested in my dream, in my tarot reading. If anyone has any other thoughts about the meaning of any facet of my dream, please jump in on the comments section. I'd love to hear others' interpretations. Now back to my regularly scheduled program, the tarot reading for February to August 2017. On the top left, in the category of what I call what you know, is the magician. He's the alchemist that creates something out of nothing. The fool's world is under his command, and the magician's world is under his control, which makes his power appear like magic. He's controlling the source of existence by conjuring up willpower. Mercury, the planet of communication, rules the magician card, and the magician's rhetorical messages transform the energy of ideas into substance. Globally, leaders are doing their magician's abracadabra trick because abracadabra means what is said is done. But many things have not been said and are not being done. On top of that, the media industry has controlled us. We had lost command and control of our lives through their communication. However, we're starting to realize research graphs are askew, giving out biased information. Fake news probably did us a favor by coming out and making people question the source of news as well as the source of the current day magician's powers. On a more personal level, the magician offers all the tools of cups, pentacles, swords, and wands to do your manifesting magic of building a life for health, money, career, and love. It's up to you to put all the pieces together of the puzzle. The magician is reminding you to use your tools and talents to transform your dreams and ideas into life-changing opportunities. However, people have readjusted to more simple lives, and I find that encouraging and refreshing. 100 years ago, people were still living in homemade cabins with kerosene lamps for light, and now it seems we can't go without a cell phone, luxury car, and a first-class home. The magician has led the fool you into the blinding light of conscious reality, and you know this now. The clarification card underneath the magician is the moon. Secrets have been behind the Oz curtain for a very long time. Everything is not what it appears to be. Secrets and deception have occurred, and you know this. Globally, what these leaders of the world are not saying, which is of vital importance to their country and mankind, has been kept hidden in the backdrop. Censorship is one major facet of their game. Ominous darkness still instills fear. But the moon can guide you from within with its intuitive powers. However, life is a learning experience, and here you're in the throes of an earthly awakening with truth shining brighter than the reflective light of the moon. Buddha said there's three things that can't be hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. Globally and personally, the populace of the world are waking up to the truth that we've been lied to and deceived to for benefits of the undeserving. If deserving, they certainly wouldn't have to lie to us. The moon is subtly pointing the way through coincidences, dreams, and premonitions. And perhaps the moon was directing my dreams towards the full lunar eclipse on February 10th and its aftermath. The central top card is what can be or is yours, is the Fool. You can be the Fool, journey and discover the new mysteries of life. His happy-go-lucky attitude shines on truths that are not distorted by dogmatic restraints imposed by society. Uranus rules the Fool and can spark unpredictability that has now spurred sudden changes. Many high-powered computers have analyzed their proclivities as humans, and without warning, we're swapping horses in the middle of the stream. Against all odds, our pensions have changed, our objectives have adjusted, and our wishes and desires have been humbled. Maybe this time the Fool is not so foolish to take his journey and find simplicity and happiness. Underneath the Fool and what can be or is yours is the Ten of Cups. The Rainbow of Cups gives you a glimpse of heaven over the cups, but only if you're living and appreciating a simple life. Success is the breadth of a rainbow of shared happiness. Pleasure, contentment, joy personify this card. Happiness is the simplest joy of life. It doesn't come from complicated financial investment accomplishments or complex work success. If ill health is not a factor, then happiness is. After the storm of trials and tribulations, the rainbow of love and happiness shines over you. A rainbow is a doorway to divine creation, the supernatural, and good fortune. This is what can be yours after the Fool's journey. On the top right, what I consider self or self-awareness, you have the Eight of Swords. This is a fairly appropriate card for this day and age. You've been ensnared in a labyrinth of lies mixed with truth that have caused confusion. As with the moon, things are not what they appear. Lies and deception has tied your hands and covered your eyes to the truth. People of the world, and you, are feeling incapacitated, restrained, and trapped. It's up to every person to break the chains of personal fears and misgivings that have rendered us helpless and hopeless, and sever the trammels of our obstacles that have held you prisoner. Cornered animals eventually claw their way out of a confinement or die. A variety of different problems and dangers hovers around this card. Dire unhappiness, mental instability, depression and despair, financial insecurities, and destructive and controlling relationships, as well as illicit affairs, extreme and escalating work issues, business losses, and illegal and criminal activities. You've been affronted by criminal aspects of this world that has intentionally caused chaos so you can't think straight. Your first thought is vitriol, overt anger and rage. But after you calm down, you think about it and you realize it was intentional, and you've been duped. Then you're incensed to change, escape the bondage, and regain your free will. Now here, the clarification card turned out to be the Two of Swords. And I thought, okay, that's cool. And then I put the other clarification card down underneath it, and it was the Two of Swords again. And that was the card I was told to do twice. And you received the Two of Swords twice. I guess my dream didn't want you to miss the importance of this card. The Two of Swords indicates the dual nature of conflicting but equal forces. And these contradictory burdens have had your head spinning. Torn between these forces has paralyzed your heart and mind. Once again, the outside forces have intentionally caused confusion, and the repeat card carries this up an octave. In retrospect, sorrow invokes change, and you've decided to change. The blindfold of Lady Justice must be ripped off in search of the blinding truth that has been ignored. The Two is the balance of opposing forces, the karmic balance of cause and effect, and the acceptance of change and renewal. Since you get two of the same clarification cards, I decided to pull out another clarification card, and you received the High Priestess underneath the Eight of Swords. The Magician is here for an earthly awakening over in what you know, but the High Priestess is here on yourself and self-awareness for a spiritual awakening. She's the translator of the will of our Creator. The High Priestess is reaching out to you with her intuitive guidance. And her lunar light is here to remind you to be alert to recognize her illuminative messages. The intuitive moon rules the High Priestess and was also the clarification card for what you know underneath the Magician, the moon. It's another reminder to listen to your inner self rather than the mainstream reports. The High Priestess balances out the masculine energy, earthly material energy of the conscious source of the Magician, with their feminine, unconscious, otherworldly source of creation. Her appearance foreshadows a time of meditative reflection on your newfound knowledge to penetrate self-awareness into self-realization of spiritual inner essence, because secrets hide behind her mysterious veil. Contemplatively dig deep before you act when she appears, because the answers come from within. When you change, so will your perspective of the world change. The future card on the far right is a reality check. People have made the conflicting decision that was offered from the Two of Swords cards. You began to see glimpses of the truth overcoming the moon. And you went on your journey with the Fool and the High Priestess, and are breaking the bonds of restraint from the Eight of Swords. And you're now moving forward with the Three of Wands as the future card. You've been empowered to make your own future by wrapping up the past, expanding your horizons for the future, making solid commitments, and keeping an eye on details. You know that you have all the magician tools and are taking action. You're embarking on a quest with the Fool to seek the shared happiness offered by the Ten of Swords. 3 is the number of unity, 1 and 2 that brings wisdom. But also include the Fool in this. It's 0, 1, 1, 2. All 3 of the first major arcana cards in the deck. It's bringing a unifying force into the party here. The Three of Wands represents creative energy, expansion, and action for an end to a means. Decisions have been made, and you and possibly other people are moving forward with these plans, most likely expanding the original plans. The Three of Wands is the gemstone rewards for going down the hill, renewing yourself in the water of life after a stormy downswing in your life. But now you're on the upswing and things are going well. Plans will come to fruition, and more will be made from future plans for advancement. People of the world are going to give a collective sigh of relief and appreciate these new beginnings. The dark clouds of the past have dissipated, and the sun is shining and the birds are singing. Life is good. We all had to reset our minds and lives to more simple pleasures that equals the shared happiness of the Ten of Cups. Throughout this, I had said the 7 deadly sins a couple different times, and Gandhi somewhere summed up my dream in tarot reading by what he considered the most spiritually perilous traits of humanity, or I believe it's his take on the 7 deadly sins. And it's wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, science without humanity, knowledge without character, politics without principle, and commerce without morality, and religion without sacrifice. And because man is up to his neck in societies that have fostered these behaviors, is why man as the collective is changing. Now let's take a look at the numerology of the spread. The 2 left-hand cards of what you know is the Magician and the Moon. The Magician is number 1 and the Moon is 18. You add them together and it's 19. And 1 plus 9 equals 10. The middle cards are the Fool and the Ten of Cups, which equals 10 again. And the Eight of Swords added to any of the clarification cards that are 2, 8 plus 2 equals 10 again. So each column in this reading has come out to 10. If you add them together, it's 30, and if you reduce it, it's to 3. And the future card of 3 of Wands is 3. This is a very nice balanced reading. When decoding something, sometimes you have to look at what is missing rather than what is there. Did you notice that the reading did not have 1 pentacle card? I found that odd because economic insecurities are high on the list on the global and personal levels. So I had the 2 decks sitting on the table, and strangely enough, I had to go down many, many cards to find the first pentacle cards from each deck. Just a minute, I'll be right back, and I'll be putting the pentacle cards I found on the far left of the reading. Okay, I'm back. The first card was the 4 of Pentacles, the Miser card. This makes a lot of sense for this day and age because people are astute enough to know that during these unstable times of changes, you should save and hold on to your money for a rainy day. The second clarification card was the 2 of Pentacles. And now that you're being frugal and it's part of the program of your life, people are finding that they're juggling their finances. And I also feel they're taking less risks than they had in the past. When there's leadership changes, Italy, Cuba, South Korea, Thailand, Venezuela, United States, to name a few, and political unrest, it really is time to batten down the hatches and ride out the storm of change. The first half of the year of 2017 is heralding positive changes, but this makes the atmosphere somewhat volatile until the dust settles, and this is not the time to take risks. Well, I'm not sure when time will allow my next readings, but I'm assuming a dream will figure that out for me. There is much to look forward in the next 6 months of the year and more positive things to come. Please stay tuned.